What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time, we're going to be taking a look at Leatherface, a prequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that takes place in the continuity that includes the 1974 film and that atrocity known as Texas Chainsaw 3D. However, unlike Chainsaw 3D, this is actually pretty good. I actually enjoyed this movie. Seeing it for a second time, I actually can say that I like it. I do have issues with it, but overall, I think this is a solid effort. And that abomination that was Chainsaw 3D, which had a story that made absolutely no sense and characters that were actually fucking beyond stupid, this movie took a more different approach. So let me get my positives out of the way first. First off, I like the story of this movie. I like this whole notion of seeing Leatherface as a more mentally stable person, and then we see him gradually become that intellectually disabled person, the intellectually disabled man baby that he eventually becomes in the 1974 movie. And I thought that the actor Sam Strike, who played Jackson Sawyer, who played Jackson, who's actually Jedediah Sawyer, did a fairly good job playing the character. I thought he was fine in the role. He comes across as very, very likable, but there are moments where you see that rage that's within him, particularly near the end of the movie. So I thought he did a good job. I thought Stephen Dorff as Hal Hartman, who was actually the father of Bert Hartman from the Chainsaw 3D movie, I thought Stephen Dorff in this movie was actually really, really good. I thought he was really, really solid. He had that right amount of derangedness to him, and he comes and he's just very intimidating, just the way his performance is. But I also like how this movie took the concept of the family feud, and we actually have a story behind it. We actually know why the Hartmans have bad blood towards the Sawyer family, because this movie pretty much reveals that the Sawyers killed Hartman's daughter, who was with Ted Hardesty, and Ted Hardesty is the father of Sally Hardesty of the original 1974 movie. So I kind of like how the Sawyers have a built-in relationship with the Hardestys, which which gives some juice to the 1974 events. Though but Ted's only here for fan service. But the more important thing is that this movie gives a reason for the blood feud between the Sawyers and the Hartmans because they killed Hal's daughter, which is what drives this man over the edge and completely insane. And I thought Stephen Dorff did a fantastic job of bringing the character to life. He gave him that right amount of menace, but he also gave him a little bit of sympathy points. But you can clearly see where his son Bert gets his charming attitude from. So yeah, Stephen Dorff in this movie was great. I thought Lily Taylor as Verna Carson, I thought she was great too as the matriarch of the Sawyer family. I thought she did a really good job. She had a good commanding presence to her, and I thought she did her role perfectly. Uh, the supporting cast, I think they all did fine for what they were given. If I have complaints about some of the cast members, the characters of Ike and Charlize, I could literally do without them. They do absolutely nothing for me. To be honest with you, I would have taken the character of Jackson, Bud, and Elizabeth, and I would have just had those three pretty much escaping from the mental institution that is started when Verna starts the riot, because the institution denied her rights, denied her visitation rights, so she started a riot. I would have just had Jackson, the character of Elizabeth, who's a nurse, and the movie kind of develops this understated romance between Jackson and said nurse, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's a nice little take on the Chainsaw 2 romance, but done in a more serious and grounded way without being too campy and over the top. It's very understated, which I can appreciate because we don't really need to see Leatherface in love, but I like how the movie hinted at that a little bit. So I'm okay with that. I also like how the character of Bud and Jackson are actually friends, and Jackson's the only one that understands Bud, and Bud, you know, to Jackson as well. And I like the friendship that develops between the two, even though Bud has little to no dialogue in this movie whatsoever. But I buy the friendship, and I buy that Jackson genuinely cares about Bud. And when Bud gets killed, that rage and that anger and that brutality that Jackson shows the cop who killed Bud, I buy it, and I buy that, and I buy him going into full blown Leatherface mode at that moment. So again, I can't iterate how much I thought that stuff was actually really well handled, really, really well done. And like I said, just have those three escaping the institution and just going cross country. Take out the characters of Charlize and Ike, and I think this movie would have been much better because to me, Charlize and Ike, they're pretty much there to die and just to kill, just add extra tension that you don't really need, and it's just to contrive ways to get Hartman to the places where they've been. You know, like with Ike and Charlize, they started a shootout at a diner. I understand why they're there, but to me, it's just contrived. I think the movie would have been much, much better and more, just better in general if you didn't have those two characters there, because they do nothing for me. Uh, that's one negative. Another negative I got, I am not crazy about the portrayal of Drayton Sawyer in this movie. Uh, Now I know in Chainsaw 1, Drayton is this eccentric and he's over the top, but he takes no pleasure in killing. This Drayton takes pleasure in killing, and it kind of contradicts Drayton Sawyer's character. Even, because he kills not because he wants to, but because he feels that he has to. This Drayton kills because he wants to, and I'm not a big fan of that. I think that's a character portrayal on Drayton Sawyer, and I like the character of Drayton Sawyer too much to let that slide. But I don't mind how they handled Nebbins, because the way Nebbins is handled in this movie, I can pretty much buy Nebbins, of course, being the hitchhiker in the first movie. I can buy Nebbins already being full-blown psychotic and him enjoying what he's doing. So that stuff I liked. So the stuff with Nebbins I liked. The stuff with Drayton I wasn't too crazy about. Overall, I think the direction and cinematography in this movie is all well done. I thought that the two directors, Julian Murray and Alexandre Bustillo, behind the director's chair, I thought they did a fairly good job. This movie's got some atmosphere to it, which I can appreciate. I like the visual style. I think the cinematography of this movie is great. It's a really well done, well shot, good looking movie with a really, again, very solid cast for the most part. Even the characters I don't like, the actors in this movie are actually trying to put on some good performances, and you get some really genuinely good performances. And these actors are actually trying and to make you care, and I thought they did a good job. I thought the script is fairly good, though it does have some clunkiness to it. Like I said, the two characters I didn't care for. The stuff with Drayton I'm not too crazy about. I like the whole concept of this movie being a road trip, and I like the psychological breakdown of Jed into Leatherface, which I thought was well handled. I like the entire third act that takes place at the Sawyer house. I enjoyed that a lot as well. Seeing Leatherface, get his mask after Hartman pretty much disfigures him by shooting him, and that's how Leatherface starts to go. That's how Leatherface starts to deteriorate pretty much, and that's when he gets the leather mask, and we see him make his first skin mask. So I like all that stuff. I thought all that stuff was really well done for the most part. So yeah, pretty much those are my thoughts on the Leatherface prequel. Overall, I do enjoy this movie. It's a step up from that garbage known as Texas Chainsaw 3D. Does this movie got problems to itself? Yeah, it does, but it's also really quite enjoyable, and I think it's one of the better Chainsaw movies to come out. This movie is actually more character driven, and it has a lot more and it has a more family drama tone to it, with the slasher elements peppered in throughout. So I kind of appreciate it. This movie tries to be more serious and more grounded, and to me, for the most part, it works and I enjoy it. And as a whole, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. I think this is a solidly made movie. It does have problems, but overall, I think it's a good addition to the Chainsaw canon. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Leatherface. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I would like to know. Like the video and subscribe, and I will check you back next time for more.